When he's finished cleaning, the guy brings the hay home. He opens his bag, which he brought with him after a trip to the mountains, and begins to take out herbs from it. Mentally, the hero notes that he uses the herbs he needs in that vessel, and the rest will be sold to the old man in the deposit hall. Young-kai gets the idea to put on old clothes. Now he is dressed in clean and new clothes. The brunette decides to change into the clothes he was traveling in. In old and shabby clothes, he comes to the deposit hall. Elder Meng pours himself a cup of tea from the teapot. He takes a sip of the liquid when a hero in torn clothes approaches him. The man jumps up from his seat, seeing the condition of his ward, and immediately asks what happened to him. The brunette starts playing along, replying that he's back. In his hands is a bag of herbs that he plans to sell to the interlocutor. Elder Meng still decides to clarify what happened in the mountains. Yang-kai declares that he has encountered a little difficulty, after which he puts herbs on the table, saying that it is a good harvest. He then asks for the senior's opinion on the matter. The old man notices to himself that these are ordinary medicinal herbs that are found almost everywhere, so they are not of any value. Chapter 1-26. The old man wonders if he should buy these useless herbs. Seeing the disciple's pained face, he still makes up his mind and offers him 2 herbs for 1 service point. The hero, after such an offer, opens his bag, which still contains a huge variety of herbs, and asks what about these herbs. Elder Meng is amazed that the guy collected all of this after only being in the mountains for 3 days. Yang-kai also notes that the fact that he was able to find them there is already very good. The other person approves, laughing a little. Mentally, the elder notices that although the development of this child is very small, he works hard. In their time, not many young people will be engaged in collecting herbs. The older man also understands that, as unfortunate as it may be, it will be difficult for this guy to achieve anything in life. The brunette looks around sharply, checking to see if anyone is nearby. The other person notices this, so they hurry to find out what the guy is looking at. Yang-kai then whispers in Elder Meng's ear that he thinks he has found an incredible thing in the mountains this time. The gray-haired man wonders what kind of thing it is. The hero admits that he does not know what it is, so he brought it to the deposit hall to ask the wise elder for advice, because he certainly knows. With that, he hands the other person a small bag. Meng takes it, pulling out a red mushroom. Yang-kai is in a nervous hurry to find out what kind of mushroom it is. The sage does not immediately give an answer to the question posed, first wanting to find out where the guy got this mushroom. The hero immediately tells that he found it in a cave, in which he encountered a spider guarding this mushroom. He tells us that he managed to kill the spider and take everything that was there for himself. After that, the elder slaps the table sharply with his palm. He doesn't like the fact that the student encountered a spider. He scolds the interlocutor for deciding to go anywhere. Yang-kai nervously says that he never thought about going deep into the mountains, and this cave was located on the outskirts. The old man exhales heavily, mentally noting that this child managed to defeat a wild beast, not knowing how dangerous it was. Then Meng announces that the guy is incredibly lucky. The gray-haired man takes another look at the mushroom, then assumes that it is most likely a blood mushroom, which is quite rare. Then an older man remembers that these mushrooms are at the initial level, so this is a great find. Yang-kai doesn't believe his luck, so he asks again if it's a rare mushroom. The brunette doubts that the other person is telling the truth. Meng also notes that he is never the enemy of the guy, and also his knowledge originates from many books and recipes describing various plants. When the hero decides to find out how many points he can get for this mushroom, the elder declares that he will give 20 points for it. Yang-kai leans his face on his hand. He thought that this mushroom would get more money. Meng is quick to console the other person, stating that 20 points is not enough, and it was not worth expecting more, because even if this mushroom is a low-level mushroom, it remains that it is too small and its age is small. With that, he puts the mushroom on the table. The hero repeats the price of the mushroom, and then begins to mentally calculate the results of his sortie. In those mountains, he obtained a sufficient amount of all the herbs he needed, and also received 36 contribution points, which combined with all his points gives him 48. Of all the herbs he had gathered, the deadling herbs were the least. With these thoughts, Yang-kai declares that he wants to buy 10 pieces of dead grass. The interlocutor also clarifies whether the guy is sure of his decision, because it will cost him 10 contribution points. The dark-haired man doesn't understand how this is possible, because the elder said that 2 herbs are equal to 1 contribution point. Meng then explains that the purchase price is the purchase price and the sale price is the sale price, so they don't have to be the same. Yang-kai doesn't like this approach, so he points his finger at the other person, claiming that he only wants to get his profit. The old man insists that it is not he who wants to reap the profits, but the main gate, which also set these prices. He has nothing to do with it. The brunette is upset that his contribution will suffer a big loss due to such prices. Mang also asks if the guy still needs that grass. The hero gives a positive answer, having received what he needed. The guy leaves in a depressed mood. The sage asks him not to leave so quickly. At the exit, young Kai passes a girl who belongs to the Shadow Hall of the Sky Tower Pavilion. She runs her eyes over him carefully, but doesn't say anything. The hero does not pay attention to it at all. A representative of the fair sex enters the deposit hall, announcing to the master that she has returned. She notices that Meng doesn't respond to her words right away. The girl takes off her cloth mask, asking if something has happened. The gray-haired man says that nothing happened, but he just thought. Chapter 1-27. Young Kai returns home. There, he immediately brews herbs in a container that he recently received from the book. The guy is carefully watching what is happening, standing over the bowl. In his mind's eye, he notices that it's a rather strange smell, because he doesn't smell anything special. The hero decides to put the vessel on the bed so that it does not get in the way. The brunette takes the container in his hands, then abruptly freezes in place, feeling that numbness binds his entire body. In the next instant, young Kai's legs give way and he falls to his knees. The jar flies out of his hands, falling to the floor and turning over. The guy is breathing heavily, realizing that he doesn't have enough strength even for a few steps. He realizes that he can't even move. The hero tries to resist, focusing on his hands. In his mind's eye, he remembers that the shamrock flower and the deadling grass are slightly poisonous. When burned, they can cause paralysis of the body. The guy realizes that this vessel not only burns herbs, but also increases their effectiveness. Young Kai notes that he was well aware of this, but became proud. With these thoughts, he falls to the floor. My hands can't stand it. The brunette also notices that these poisons cannot have a destructive effect. In addition, breakouts are much more effective at maximum loads. Young Kai forces himself to stay conscious, because otherwise there is a chance of serious injury. He takes a sitting position. My whole body is shaking. The guy tries to force himself to stand up, stating that overcoming his limits is the whole point of practicing martial arts. After a few moments, he finds the strength to get to his feet. As he stands up, the brunette is surprised to realize that something has changed. He lets out a heavy breath, noticing what he thought was happening. He'll lose consciousness. Now, young Kai realizes that not only does his body no longer hurt, but it has also become stronger. Only steely will and tenacity can stimulate the body at a critical moment. The hero slowly approaches the vessel, then bends down to pick it up. Mentally, he notes that this golden vessel is really good. The brunette realizes that the vessel is too effective, but one serving of herbs is only enough for an hour, and if you do this procedure 7 or 8 times a day, then his supply of herbs will quickly run out. The guy goes to bed because it's already night. He realizes that he only has 38 contribution points left, which is not enough for his training. At the same time, Sumu is also awake. He's lying in bed, thinking about what happened. He realizes that because of this young Kai, he failed to achieve his goal of winning the heart of that old fart's daughter. With such thoughts, he will find his comrade. 2 people wake up in the room at once. The sleepy kid asks what happened. Sumu claims that he knows what's going on, so he decides to ask them if they have any ideas. This makes the boy wake up completely. He notices that it's been 4 days. Sumu says they can take more time. Seeing his friend yawning sweetly, he shouts at him, demanding that he stop sleeping on the go and start generating useful ideas. This makes the boy jump up and down in fear. A third person enters the conversation and claims to have an idea. This surprises Sumu a little. The interlocutor immediately approaches him and tells him in his ear what he has planned. After that, a smile appears on the kid's face, and he says that it sounds really good, so he relies on it. The student who came up with an interesting idea is happy that Brother Su approved of it. The next day arrives. Young Kai is sweeping the entrance as usual. In his mind's eye, he notices that he had a pretty good break in strength yesterday, so he wants to finish cleaning up quickly and get back to practice. At the same time, an unknown person appears on the street. Comrade Sumu, who suggested the idea, calls the hero to him. Young Kai asks if Tom needs something from him. He tells him that he heard that Brother Yang was able to defeat Jahu. This is what struck the student. The hero is perplexed by this, deciding to clarify whether the interlocutor had any problems with him. The guy gives a positive answer, emphasizing that this was in the past. Back then, Zhao Hu had bullied him. After these words, Young Kai decides to clarify whether he wants to get even with him. The interviewee claims that he was dreaming about it, but Zhao Hu has strong connections inside the pavilion, so she can't provoke him. In his mind, the dark-haired man emphasizes that this is a man from Sumu's gang, just as he thought. The guy at the same time thanks the hero for defeating Zhao Hu, saying that he felt a little better. Then the man Sumu notices that Brother Yang is not as weak as they say he is. The hero says that he still has to work and work. The guy claims that Brother Yang is too modest. After that, he introduces himself as La Yuntian. He wants to learn a few techniques from his older brother. Yang Kai, on the other hand, thinks that if he hadn't defeated Zhao Hu yesterday, Zhao Hu might still have considered him weak. The request of the interlocutor surprises him a little, so he rushes to clarify whether he wants to learn from him. Lai Yuntian also says that he wants to see with his own eyes the strength of his older brother, who defeated Zhao Hu. Chapter 1-28. Yang Kai asks the guy to forget about it, because he usually does not exchange blows without a sharp knee. The student begins to play on emotions, almost begging the hero to agree. This is a great opportunity for him to learn something new from his brother. Lai Yuntian mentally notices that things are going badly, because at this rate, his plan will fail. He says that the interlocutor should not refuse him, because this is also a valuable experience for him. Kai repeats that he can't help his brother with this. The guy does not understand why he refuses to spar, because it will be useful for both of them. Lai Yuntian emphasizes that he doesn't understand why Brother Yang can't help his younger brother. The hero says that no means no. Then it dawns on the kid. He scratches the back of his head, emphasizing the fact that his brother is probably afraid of losing and losing his contribution points. After making this assumption, Sumu immediately notices that he should not worry, because Brother Yang will definitely be stronger than him. After all, he defeated Zhao Hu. The boy also emphasizes that if he is really afraid of losing, then he compensates him for points. Yang Kai asks if the other person is sure of their decision. He gives the boy's word, which causes the hero to think, seeing the other party's confusion. Lai Yuntian starts to lose his temper, asking if the other party is still doubtful. Yang Kai accepts the offer, but he's only recently been challenged, so they'll have to wait a few days. The boy is already burning with a bright flame inside, reminding his brother that according to the rules, he can challenge him himself, since the guy has not received them for a long time. The hero admits that he completely forgot about this rule, because over the past 3 years he has not challenged anyone. Lai Yuntian asks if she can start already. Yang Kai asks once again, if he loses, then he will really share his points with them. Lai Yuntian gives a positive answer, emphasizing that he compensates for all the lost points of the interlocutor. The hero also says that the younger brother should not take back his words. Yang Kai leans into his brother's ear, making suggestions. At the same time, he notices that this may be too brazen on his part. Lai Yuntian freezes for a moment. His world is turned upside down. He agrees to the offer, asking Brother Yan to wait for him here. He takes off running towards the buildings. The hero is amazed at what a wonderful world it is, since people themselves come to his doorstep with a piece of cake. He understands that what is happening will only benefit him, because next time it will not work out that way. At the same time, Sumu looks out from behind a tree, who doesn't understand what Lai Yuntian is up to. Yang Kai continues to sweep. Sumu is watching him closely. A friend approaches him and tells him that he has learned some details. He says that the fact is that Yang Kai asked Lai Yuntian to bring a dozen herbs as compensation, and Lai Yuntian only asked to spar with Yang Kai. Sumu also notices that this is a rather meager request, because a dozen medicinal herbs do not compensate for the lost contribution points. The friend says that Lai Yuntian has a big mouth and promised to give him 10 times more herbs. Sumu decides not to interfere yet, because a mere 100 herbs is a small loss for teaching Yang Kai a lesson. The hero continues to do his job. Lai Yuntian runs back. In his hands is a small bag of herbs. In his mind, he declares that Keeper Meng is an old speculator, because for every 10 herbs, you need to pay as much as 20 contribution points. The hero notices the guy only when he addresses him by name. Sumu hands over a bag of herbs, inviting his brother to count them. Yang Kai accepts the bag, claiming that it is not necessary. The kid asks if they can start now. The hero replies that they can start at any time. Lai Yuntian then folds his hands in respect of the opponent. He asks his older brother to enlighten him. The hero says that he is counting on the interlocutor. After that, Sumu's 6 takes off, intending to land a direct palm strike. Yang Kai responds with a punch. Time freezes for a second, and then Lai Yuntian flies back. He marvels at what he felt, noting that it feels like he hit a large boulder. Then it takes off again from the spot on which it is located. Merev tries to feel out the opponent's style. Lai Yuntian delivers a direct punch to the stomach, which would have been fatal to the hero in the past, causing him to fall to the ground, but this time it's different. Yang Kai purposely allowed himself to be hit so that he could grab the opponent's arm and strike back at the guy who has no way to dodge. A smug smile appears on the hero's face. The Sumu 6 doesn't believe in what's happening right now. He doesn't have time to defend against Yang Kai's kick, which sends Lai Yuntian flying with a clear and powerful kick. Chapter 1-29. Lai Yuntian tries to get to his feet, but the hero bumps into him. He is not going to spare him, so he strikes before the opponent has time to get up. After that, the 6 Sumu demands to stop fighting because he admits defeat. Yang Kai immediately stops walking. He holds out his hand to his friend, saying that he will help his younger brother up. 2 observers are amazed at what they have just seen. Sumu is in a hurry to find out what stage of body tempering Lai Yuntian is currently in. A friend says that Lai Yuntian is currently in the 7th stage, but he is still not familiar with combat skills. These words unsettle Sumu, because it is obvious that the 4th level of body tempering could not overcome the 7th, so what is happening is simply ridiculous. Then a hand falls on Sumu's shoulder. The person who put down the hand is Yang Kai, who says that if there is such an opportunity again in the future, then Brother Su should not be shy, because Big Brother Yang will always help him in a difficult moment. Sumu, on the other hand, wonders what the other person knew all along. The hero explains that yesterday Lai Yuntian was in the crowd with him, although he tried to hide. The guy notes that he has a good memory. Sumu also knows that Yang Kai is actually very smart. After that, the hero claims that it's time for him to go, and that he will be waiting for them tomorrow. A couple of days later, the hero is at his home. He sits in the lotus position and meditates. A blue aura is flying around him, but after a few moments, it completely transforms, turning purple. Yang Kai is happy about this, because this is a serious progress for him. He had finally reached the 7th stage of body tempering, so he would soon be able to seriously start learning martial techniques. The guy gets up from his seat, heading into the house. In his mind's eye, he notices that on the 4th page of that book there are descriptions of martial arts. Once inside, the brunette calls for a book, then opens it to a new page. It describes the methods of teaching golden martial arts. The guy goes deep into reading, surprised to realize that this set of movements and techniques is quite peculiar. Yang amplification technique, a practice that involves strengthening one's own yang. Yang amplification techniques are fickle. Unlike other techniques, where the practitioner must adhere to certain stages, it does not have precise and consistent actions. However, the yang amplification technique has its own basics, which always remain unchanged. The whole point of this technique is that you must train in a place with an excessive yang energy. This technique is secret. When you practice it, the yang energy becomes liquid and begins to collect in your dantian. Dantian is a type of human energy vessel. The hero also emphasizes that there are limits. If the liquid yang energy overflows, then there is the possibility of damaging one's meridians. But there is also a huge plus. During battle, you can use this energy to increase the effectiveness of your attacks. A couple of days pass. Yang Kai sits in the lotus position outside the house. He understands that by practicing in the open sun all day, his yang energy has only increased by a drop. But he has no choice, because the sun is the most accessible and best source of poison energy for him right now. The hero rises to his feet, noticing that he has finally completed the 1st stage of forming the true Yang Kai source. Now the true source of Yang Kai is in synergy with its yang energy. We don't understand Yang Kai. It only asks why he can't sense it. He also has one guess. The guy decides to check something out. He goes to a huge ravine. It turns out that this is the prison of the wriggling dragon, which is full of yang energy. The wriggling dragon prison is a forbidden place in the entire sky pavilion. Strong winds blow over it. Here they send students who have committed unforgivable acts. The hero wonders why Yang Kai has gathered in this place. Yang Kai takes the lotus position, noting that there can be no doubt, because the intensity of yang energy in this place is simply beyond imagination. The hero raises his hand, which gives off a yellow glow, noting that this pleasant feeling is similar to warmth. After that, he turns around to see an old man with a long white beard and mustache, but it's not Elder Meng. The hero immediately jumps up from his seat. He greets the elder and introduces himself. Mentally, he assumes that the other person has a high status in the pavilion. The elder looks at him with interest. Yang Kai decides to clarify. He notes that he does not know how he can address the other person. The same one says that the disciple can call him the 11th elder. The guy once again greets the official, thinking about who it is. The brunette has doubts that such a person is in the pavilion. The 11th elder asks if the guy practices martial arts, and after receiving a positive answer, he asks another question, wondering if the concentration of yang energy is based on it. The hero admits that yes. In his mind's eye, he knows that the other party must have sensed the strong yang energy coming from this place. Yang Kai decides to ask his own question, noting that there is something he doesn't understand. The guy asks why there is such a large amount of yang energy in this place. The 11th elder explains that the answer to this lies in the depths of these cracks. In his opinion, there is a hidden treasure that radiates energy. The brunette notices to himself that it was very obvious, but it is not at all clear to him what kind of treasure it is. Seeing the surprise and a bit of incomprehension in the disciple's eyes, the elder hurries to explain everything to him. First, he asks if the other person knows how the wriggling dragon prison works. Seeing the bewilderment in the young man's eyes, he says that it appeared from a sword strike. The hero looks around the huge crevice, noticing that it is more than 100 feet wide. Yang Kai finds it hard to believe that it was formed from a sword cut. The 11th elder begins his story. Hundreds of years ago, there was still no sky pavilion at this place. When their founder was crossing these lands, he encountered a powerful demon. In the harsh battle, the demon was forced to flee, cutting the ground with his sword, thus setting up an escape route, and so the chase began. It took the founder a lot of effort, but he was still able to catch up and defeat the demon. The power of the demon was unimaginable. Even though it is now dead, no one can say for sure that there is no second one like it in this world. The founder decided to guard this rift that the demon's head was left in for a while establishing a sky pavilion. The man points out that darkness rules this place, so there's no way the sun's rays can reach the bottom, and after the founder left them, this place became a prison for the worst students. Yang Kai decides to clarify. The interlocutor came here to visit this place. The elder denies this, saying that he did not come here for this, but that he just wanted to find one person. The 11th elder begins to leave. Noticing that he has become old and has not stopped talking, he decides that he has to go, so their conversation can be rescheduled for later. The hero is a little surprised by this behavior of the old man. But when he leaves, he decides to practice in this place again since there is a young treasure here. A couple of days pass. Every day, the guy comes to the cliff, sits in the lotus position and starts practicing martial arts. Today he was lucky. Try to do something unusual. By concentrating a huge amount of yang energy within itself, it finally releases one drop of yang. Yang Kai is very happy that he finally managed to do it. He knows it was worth it, even though it took a few days of sitting in the hot sun. The guy decides to go home. The hero comes to his house and is surprised to notice that the door, which he always closes before leaving, was now open. He enters the room, noticing that a girl is lying on his bed, which is illuminated by the moonlight. A representative of the fair sex lies on her back. Light from a small crack in the ceiling creeps into the room, illuminating her face. She does not react to the appearance of the owner, continuing to doze. Yang Kai walks over to the bed. Noting that there is a beauty in the moonlight lying on his bed, he assumes that she is one of the students. He looks up, noticing the source of the light. The hero notes that the hole in the roof, which he has not yet repaired, turned out to be only good today. At this point, the girl opens her eyes. He jumps out of bed, sitting up, his face red with embarrassment. A representative of the fair sex collides with a guy's gaze. There's an awkward pause, because neither of them knows how to start a conversation. Yang Kai clears his throat, deciding to clarify how he can address his sister. Mentally, he slaps himself on the back of the head, noting that he probably didn't ask the right question. The girl says her name. Her name is Zia. The hero then asks if there is anything he can do to help Sister Zia. A representative of the fair sex jumps up from her seat, telling the reason for her arrival. It turns out that a hunter from the Black Wind Mountain range was looking for him today. He waited all day, but the guy never showed up. The hunter wanted to thank the hero for his kindness and help. With that, Zia picks up a small bag from the table and hands it to the hero. He also thanks the girl for her help. Mentally noting that this is definitely Zhang Shan, Zia claims that she was entrusted to take the bag to him, but he never came, so she fell asleep for a while. Yang Kai notices that he caused a lot of trouble to his sister, but he assures that this will not happen again next time. The representative of the fair sex claims that she has completed her task, so now she can go. After these words, he jerks out of the room. He opens the gift bag, making a mental note that Sis Zia is too shy. He pulls out 2 matching clothes, knowing full well that they're handmade. The dark-haired man assumes that it was Zhang Shan's wife who did it. With a bright smile, Yang Kai goes to bed, thinking that they are too kind. Chapter 1-31. In the morning, the hero wakes up to a knock on the door. He gets up from the bed, asking who's there. Opening the door, he sees a student running away. There's a note on the doorstep. The guy realizes that it was Lai Yuntian. He reads the note that says a challenge from Sumu. He asks him to come to the thicket of the Black Wind Forest for a conversation. The brunette is fully aware that there is definitely an ambush waiting for him in the forest. Yang Kai, on the other hand, is considering whether he should test the effects of developing a yang amplification technique. At the same time, Lai Yuntian runs up to his 2 companions. Sumu immediately asks if everything is normal, after receiving a positive response. He points out that they can only wait until Yang Kai shows up. Then the 3rd student notices that they have guests. 5 men in burgundy and white uniforms are walking towards them. These are people from the Thunder Domain.